Please welcome Carolina.
In my mid-20s, I thought I had life figured out. I recently graduated, I got married, bought a house, adopted a couple of cats, and had a thriving clinical psychology practice. But inside me, I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling quite depressed and like everything was black and white. Didn't see any color in my life. One day my mom sat me down, she did sort of an intervention, and she told me, like I was 27 back then, she told me, "You are so young, yet it feels like you're already dying." Thanks, Mom. Very, very nice words to tell to your child that's pretty depressed. But that actually got me thinking because those words were true. I needed to make some changes in my life. I always wanted to move to a different country, and this is why it's so great that I go after John, because he was talking about your life vision, and this is exactly what I did in that moment. I created a vision for myself. And I planned everything to move to the Netherlands. And wait, I need to find the clicker. There we go. And then on that date, 17th of January of 2019, I was entering my former house for the last time. I was leaving some furniture behind, the bed, some appliances, and amongst everything I was leaving, there was my cat, Salem. For the people that know about cats, you know that there's cats that love people more than the house, and there's cats that love the house more than the people. Salem was a house cat. He loved his territory. He was an alpha male, and he had conquered the whole neighborhood. And I didn't want to do it to him, like to move him somewhere else, so I left it in the house, and I rearranged with the new renters that they would take care of him, and they were super happy to do it. But this day, no, the previous Lights Day, it was the day where I went there to say goodbye. And I came into the house and Salem was laying in the bed and just laid next to him. And you probably know that before leaving a place that you've been staying for a long time, there's a lot to do, so it's stressful. Imagine a place that I've been staying for 28 years. And in that moment, I was just so tired, and I just laid down next to Salem and grabbed his paw in my hand, in this hand actually. And it was so soft and fluffy. And I drifted off because my body was like tapping out. And 15 minutes later, I woke up and I was still holding Salem's paw. And in that moment was when it actually hit me. It hit me that this was the last time we were going to hang out. And I felt a sudden grief invade me, and I started questioning every decision I ever made. And I was like, is this the right decision? And then a voice inside me told me, yes, go for it. So with a heart full of grief, I let go of the paw, gave Salem one last pet, and then I walked out of the room. And then I walked out of the house, locked the door behind me, and started a new chapter. You might be thinking, she's intense. Why do you start with that story? Well, intuition doesn't always come in the most comfortable ways. And we're very used to use our logic. In fact, most of the presentations in this festival are about using your left brain, everything that's logic related. But intuition operates on the other side of the brain, on the right side, on the creative, on the flowy side. And this means that to get there, to get you to feel, then we need to include some stories and we need to make it a bit fun. So let's define intuition. Intuition for science is the subconscious perception of patterns or signs. This means that your brain analyzes the environment and makes a black box kind of thing, and then summarizes the information as a gut feel. Then there's the woo-woo side. That is spirituality, which says guidance, intuition is guidance from a higher level of consciousness. And this implies that there's an order to things and that everybody has a role to play in the game. My definition of intuition is slightly different. It's a bit of both and a bit of neither. For me, intuition is the compass of the heart. Aww. Well, that sounds very corny. What I really mean when I say it's the compass of the heart is basically the place that summarizes all the information that your body can perceive. Your body, every one of you's bodies, has 37 trillion cells in it. And within those cells, there's DNA. DNA has been around since the beginning of life on Earth. When there was like this single-celled organism floating around a boiling pond on a very hot Earth, that's where it started, and that's in your genetic footprint. So within you, you have the information of that bacteria. You have the information of the fish. You have the information of the lizard, the dinosaur, the bird, the mammals, the monkeys, and all of your ancestors. Your DNA is a string that it's basically the blueprint of all history of life on Earth. And this holds wisdom. It needs to be interpreted because we don't know how to decode DNA, clearly. But what I feel is that the compass of the heart, it helps you. It just tells you, gives you a feeling, and it tells you, oh, go in that direction or go in that direction. As travelers, you probably have experienced moments of intuition. Like, does somebody relate? Okay, not that many. Let's get you lifting the hand later. And because when we have so many moving parts, we need to choose a place to live, we need to choose a place to eat, we need to choose who will we talk to, then we have to follow our intuition quite often. So it's good to practice it. Intuition is like a muscle. If you accept that it exists and then you use it, then you become stronger with it. But in the beginning, it's probably just guessing, like almost like 50-50 chance that this is my intuition, this is not. And then it becomes more of a conscious effort. Now let's talk about instinct. Instinct is usually mixed up with intuition. Everybody thinks that it's basically the same, but it's a sub-branch of intuition. Instinct comes from those times about 200,000 years ago when we were living in tribes and in the wild. And whenever we would go out to gather some fruits or to hunt an animal, we would be in grave danger. Earth was a messy place back then. Imagine. So people would go out and would need to be super attuned with their environment. And if you're just walking the forest and all of a sudden you're about to step on a snake, there's something that tells you, oh, look up, look down. Do not look up. There's a snake on the ground. Why would you look up? Or you hear something moving in the bushes. You know that it's dangerous. You need to run away. And we still have that. We still have the instinct within us. Instinct comes up whenever we are entering a dangerous place or we're staying too late at a party and then you feel like, oh, everybody's just going to make a mess. And it's this reminder that comes from our ancestors that tells us, get out of that situation or get ready to fight in case you're in grave danger. So how do we know when to trust our intuition and when to trust our instinct? Instinct is for situations where your safety is at risk. And we shouldn't ignore our instinct whenever we're in a new place. Let's say you're traveling to a new city and you turn left in a street. That's the right, Jesus Christ. Turn left in a street. And then you just start getting a weird feeling. And you're like, okay, I'll get out. And so you back your tracks and then you just go back to the main street. And in that case, you're using your instinct. Maybe there's something in that street that could be potentially dangerous for you. It's important not to ignore it, because it's better to have a false positive. Let's say that you think you're in danger and you're not in danger, than to have an actual dangerous situation and not react to it. Your intuition comes when you are calm. Your intuition comes in other situations where you are laying in your bed, or when you're meditating, or when you're just walking your dog and flowing with life. So how do you know which one to use when? You look around. Before getting on the stage, I was getting nervous, but then I look around and I realize, oh, I'm actually safe. So it's not a place for my instinct. It's a place for my intuition. But if your safety is at question, follow your instinct. So now let's talk a bit about how to use your intuition to make decisions. Because this one is a big one. I guess that's the whole purpose of the talk. There's two main things that are important to keep in mind whenever you're making a decision. First of all, if you want to consult with your intuition, you need to be centered. Because if you're all over the place and you're having a million things in your head, then your intuition is just going to get confused, and it's like the compass that is like next to a magnet that is like, it doesn't work. So breathing, going deeper within you, getting centered, that works. And then the other thing, neutral. If you have multiple choices that you can make, try to be as neutral about them as possible. Because if you have a horse in the race and you want to make that decision, then you are not open for new input. Your intuition can give you that, can give you the wild card response that you're like, really? Moving to the Netherlands? Okay, let's do it. And whenever you make your decisions based on intuition, be careful of this dude or dudette, because the brain will try to talk you out of that decision. The brain has this nasty habit, right? When you get a feeling and you want to go for it, but then there's no logic explanation to it, so the brain is like, oh, you're sure? And then you're like, no, I'm not sure. Okay. When we do that to other people, when we tell somebody, no, your feelings are not right, or what you felt is wrong, then we're gaslighting them. But when we do it to ourselves, we're rationalizing. How do we allow that to happen? So keep this in mind whenever you're thinking through things, that your brain will probably try to gaslight your intuition. So I want to share one last story with you. This one is very specific to travel. And last year, around this exact time, I was in Peru. And I was choosing an apartment for Urubamba, which is a tiny town in the middle of the Secret Valley. And I narrowed down my options by good Wi-Fi, place to work, and walking distance to the center. That was my logic part. And then I got these two places which are so ridiculously similar, I couldn't make a decision. The top one had breakfast included, but it didn't have, it wasn't within walking distance. It was like 30, 40-minute walk to the center. The second one was in the center, but didn't have breakfast. So it was the same for me. I closed my eyes, I asked my intuition, which one should I go to? Told me, go to the top one. I was like, all right, easy peasy. Now, when I arrived to that place, I was super surprised because it was so nice. The pictures didn't do it justice. It was outside the city, so there were mountains surrounding the whole place. And whenever I was working, then I would see all the mountains, the landscape, it was gorgeous. On top of that, they had 2 cats, and I love cats, and 2 dogs, one of them very needy, but friendly. And it felt like it was a family, that we were all together in a community. So I love that place. And I was like, I see intuition, I see what you got me here. Fun fact, I also got to stay in the other place for 3 days. It was not nearly as nice. The hosts were business people, so they wouldn't pay attention to the guests. They didn't want to connect. And there was no view and no really places to work. So the intuition got that right as well. But in this place, there was also the owner. Her name was Kathy. Is Kathy. She's still alive. And she loved doing hikes with us. She was always taking us on tours and telling us about the most nerdy things you can imagine about the Incas and the Quechua. And we were like, okay. And no way that I could retain all that information, but she loved it. She was so passionate about it. And when I asked her what was she doing, she was like, oh, I just finished my accounting career. Accounting? Girl, what? And we started talking because as a psychologist, I cannot help myself. And I noticed that she was following the good girl path by having a good career and doing that. And I was encouraging her to maybe explore this option of being a tourist guide. So when we did a big hike with my boyfriend, which is somewhere here, can you raise your hand, my love? Oh, whoa, okay, there, plot twist. Yes, we did a hike with her, and then we decided we were going to give her a gift. She wanted to go to this tour that was a super nerdy thing with all archaeologists, and it was like a whole day spending in some ruins that you didn't have access as public. And she wanted to do that, and it was about 100 soles, which is the currency of Peru, and it's equivalent to $25. We were like, well, we can gift her that. And in an envelope I wrote, for the projects that make your heart shine. I gifted it to her. And she didn't know what to do. If you know Peruvians, they're pretty humble. And she was like, what? And we left it at that. Then we left Peru. We moved on. And about 6 months later, we got in touch again. And it turned out that she had actually changed careers. And I'm going to share with you the conversation that we had on WhatsApp. I'm going to translate it because it's in Spanish. And she said, on the 5th, my classes start. The classes for being a tourist guide. Thank you very much. I have very present the message that you gave me, and I have it as an amulet. I changed the soles for dollars with the company of Benjamin. Thank you very, very much. You changed my life. I get chills when reading that. She wouldn't say that lightly. And in that moment, I realized my intuition doesn't only guide me to the things that are the most aligned with my story, with my path. It also guides me to be of service anytime I can. We can only trust that our intuition is guiding us to the right places. There's no proof. Like, scientists cannot understand this or even grasp it. We're talking about an intelligence that's within ourselves, that has been around for millions of years. So I think it's a choice you can make. Again, as a psychologist, I know that whatever you believe becomes true. So if you believe that everything is meaningless and there's no point to life and there's no purpose, your life is gonna reflect that. You're gonna be alone, isolated, and you're not gonna feel that nobody has your back, not even nature. However, if you believe that your intuition can guide you to the best, higher possibility of your life, then you start seeing connections maybe where there aren't, and you start living life more fully. You start believing that there's actually a meaning to what you do. And whether that is true or not, we can trust that it is. It's going to make our lives better. There's this song called The Circle of Life from Elton John. It's in The Lion King, so probably everybody knows it. It's really beautiful. And at some point it says, there's more to see that can never be seen, more to do that can ever be done. And That's very true. From the moment we wake up as babies, we come out of our mothers screaming and bloody. In that moment, our life has so many possibilities. And life takes us down different paths. And whenever we're following what society planned for us, it might feel empty, it might feel like it doesn't fit, that it doesn't really align with your story. But if you follow your intuition, you will realize that you are meant to be seeing some things and you are meant to be doing some things that are specific and tailored to your life experience. And because your life experience is unique, there's no map that you can follow, but there's a compass. And that compass is your heart. Thank you.